Good morning. Welcome in. We are the Out of Bounds Show, brought to you by the super premium Patron Tequila. Excited to have Patron as a partner on the show. Patron Silver, Patron Reposado, Añejo, and Extra Añejo. 100% blue agave, super premium Patron Tequila. You can find it at Briarwood Wine and Spirits. You're listening Out of Bounds, ESPN 105.9 The Zone. We welcome in our friend Robert St. John, restaurateur in Hattiesburg and Jackson. And RSJ joins us on the Yuengling Lager guest line. Merry Christmas.
Yeah, happy holidays, Bo. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. I'm doing well. And I appreciate you stopping by. We're going to have some fun here over the next 20 minutes. But I wanted to start first with you've been able to dine with coaches and dignitaries throughout the state of Mississippi for 3 decades. And you had an opportunity to spend some time with the late, great Coach Mike Leach, the Pirate. Do you have a story for us?
Oh, I have I have a lot of stories, as you could imagine. But, I spent 3 years in a row, 2020, I guess he had been here about 7 months. I had 3 dinners with him. Each one of them lasted about 3 hours, and I was seated next to him at all 3, which was will be when I'm 80 years old in a rocking chair, thinking back on my life one day. Those 3 dining experiences, I guess 9 total hours sitting next to that guy, will be some of my greatest memories. And the thing is and there were, he just didn't talk about football a lot. And there were other people in the room. And when he started telling the story, he owned the room. But I can remember the first time when I was really just getting to know him, he spent like 20 minutes talking about swans. And I thought, man, this guy, I knew he had written a book about Geronimo, and I was expecting him to know a lot about Native Americans and the West and pirates and all of that stuff. But man, he knew the physiology and the psychology and everything behind swans. I was like, he was just reeling off all this info like he was, had a PhD in the stuff. And I said, how do you know so much about swans? I was really thinking, why in the hell are we talking about swans? But it turns out at his land in Starkville, there's a little pond on that. It's just one of these old Mississippi country ponds, nasty. And I think it had a little island on it, and he used to swim in that pond and go out to the island or wherever the ducks and swans hang out. They're mean as hell. And he would hang out with the swans, and he just researched them. I don't know over how long, probably all night long, and until the athletic department finally told him, "Man, you can't be swimming in that water. You're gonna catch some from all that algae or whatever's in the water." But he always had a story. The thing about Coach Leach is he would go off on a story, and he would start talking. And then he'd be 10 minutes into it, and it wasn't really about the original premise. And you're thinking, oh, man, he's just drifting. He's going off, and this isn't really making sense, and he's already on some other topic. And 20 minutes later, he makes it to where it comes around to where he started. It was this whole thing was so descriptive and on purpose. Unbelievable. It was, I think I was blessed to have those 9 hours seated next to him, sharing a meal with others. And I consider myself blessed. And I really knew, I think this is going to sound weird saying this and may offend some people, but, I think this guy's a genius. He's a genius on so many levels, not just football and all of that. And I think, and I know it's true because I've read things on message boards and stuff. So many people for the last 3 years had no clue in what Mississippi State had in that man until now, until all of the national media came out and all, it was just one of a kind. There'll never, ever be another one like him. He was one of one break the mold.
You and I've been able to meet some cool people. I've never met anybody remotely close to being the way he is.
Yeah, and it didn't matter. I mean, he spent a lot of time talking to our busboy.
Yes.
You know, and just I forget, but maybe the busboy was from the coast and they were talking about something else. He got totally enthralled. I've written a book and produced a documentary on Walter Anderson, and I knew that was going to be right up his alley because, you know, Anderson was you know, quirky and eccentric, and you know, we spent a little time talking about that as well. And plus, he just wanted to know more about Mississippi. He was very at home here. If his health would have held out, he would have been here for a long time, I believe.
I agree. Robert St. John on the Out of Bounds Show, 105.9 The Zone ESPN. Before we dive into your pork tenderloin and beef tenderloin dish, will you describe your short ribs dish from Enzo to the listeners?
Well, yeah, and I want to thank you for bringing that up because I really wanted to serve you one the other night. You and Wendy were in there with another couple. And I thought, I want Bo to try this short rib. So I went back and I said, I need a short rib on the fly. Y'all get this done. And by the time it got up and we put the hurry on it, y'all were already gone. And so I had to eat it myself. And it wasn't too bad a thing. But this short rib, y'all, and I can't take any credit for it. Justin Ferguson is the executive chef at Enzo. He was with me for 12 years at the Purple Parrot Cafe doing fine dining, you know, 4-star AAA rated here. And then he went to New Orleans for about 4 years, worked at Carrollton Market, among other places. And then we brought him up here. He's a very talented guy, 20 years in the industry, 16 years, you know, doing fine dining and stuff. And so he's running the kitchen there. And his first feature that when we opened Enzo, you know, my number one goal was to keep everyone employed. The previous restaurant was closing. You know, we're still in the middle of COVID labor issues, and the Jackson metro area is always a tough place to hire. So you throw COVID in there, and it's even tougher. So we wanted to keep everyone employed, really for two reasons. One, to keep them employed, but two, we needed people. And so they shut down one day. We got in the next day and just started paying them. And we paid them all for 2 weeks, even though we weren't open. So everybody kept their job. But we opened with a very small, limited, very easy, simple menu that actually we're still doing. It's just about to change next week. And so the original menu I developed was half authentic Italian, half American Italian. And right before we opened, I was like, you know what? I got to cut a bunch of this. And so I cut, and mostly what I cut was authentic Italian, but a lot of that's coming back in the next week or two, right after the holidays. But we've been running some features lately, and Justin Ferguson came up with it. Dude, and I'm a short rib guy. I love short rib. We do some banquets down here. A lot of times we'll serve 350 of these things. And the beautiful thing about short rib, when it the bone helps it retain the heat, so it's good for large groups. But we're not doing large groups at Enzo. I mean, we have a private dining room, but this entree, it's braised for about 4 hours, and red wine, and then we make a marsala demi-glace using veal stock and marsala wine and mushrooms, and it's over saffron risotto. It is, I'm going to tell you, I don't know if I can use this word on the radio, but it's badass.
You can.
It's really, really good. This meat falls off the bone. The sauce, that marsala sauce, is really rich in risotto. So, Bo, you got to come back, and I'll serve it to you again. To be honest with you, I know we're going to talk about pork tenderloin and beef tenderloin because those are kind of two of the go-tos I do on Christmas Eve. Our family does Christmas Eve dinner is always our big thing. But this year I'm doing the short rib. I'm doing Justin Ferguson short rib and risotto. And the cream spinach at Enzo is killer. My daughter's been begging me to do that cream spinach I do at home at the restaurants, and we just hadn't until now. And the cream spinach at Enzo is really good.
And now I'm hungry. And so the short rib at Enzo is in my near future. We're visiting with Robert St. John. The recipes that we're about to go over, you can go to robertstjohn.com and find them, and I'm going to drop them on our social media platforms too.
Good.
And Robert, kind enough to stop by today. Restaurateur, Hattiesburg Jackson, author, all that kind of good stuff. And Robert joins us on the Yuengling Lager guest line. These are both right in my wheelhouse. Okay, so this is big boy food, meat. I love it. Let's start with the pork tenderloin with muscadine glaze.
Yeah. So this is weird how this recipe came about, and I don't do any really Asian cooking. But I have cookbooks. I'm sitting here looking at them. At about, I don't know, 2,000 or 3,000 cookbooks. I collect them, and so I have a lot of Oriental Asian type food. And a lot of times they do recipes where they'll do a plum sauce, and they'll just take plum jelly and reduce it in a hot skillet with some type of acid and onions and things like that, just to get it complex. And I love the idea of that, just taking jelly and heating it up to where it liquefies and adding stuff to it. And I thought, how can I southernize that? And I thought muscadine jelly is the perfect thing to do. And so something sweet like that, you want to go with pork. And so I came up with this recipe, I'm not sure, 15, 20 years ago. I loved it so much, I did it for one of my Christmas Eve dinners. Probably done it for a couple of times. And really, it's easy. If your folks pull it up, you just take pork tenderloin, salt and pepper, sear it in a skillet, and then remove it from the skillet, take most of the oil out, and you go in with shallot and garlic, and then start to make that muscadine glaze, and you drop some brown sugar in there, and Riesling wine or muscadine wine if you can find it. I'd rather probably use Riesling, and a little balsamic vinegar. I get some acid in there, and chicken stock, and then the muscadine jelly. Mm. And, you can substitute mayhaw if you want. And really, I mean, if you wanted to use blackberry or something like that, you could use, or probably even peach would work. But I do it with muscadine, and you just serve that sauce. It's got some other stuff, some, black pepper and things like that. But serve that over the pork tenderloin, and it's really good, and it's very southern. It feels a little Asian because that's kind of what I was thinking about, but it's not, because you're using mayhaws,
right,
or muscadines.
God, I love mayhaw.
Me too.
Love that stuff. My dad's been buying that forever. Robert St. John.
Yeah.
Love it. You're listening to Out of Bounds, ESPN 105.9 The Zone. Robert St. John, friend of the show, restaurateur, hanging out with us. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays to all of our listeners. And you can find these recipes on robertstjohn.com. Now, the second one that you sent me earlier is the beef tenderloin with horseradish spiked Bordelaise sauce.
Yeah, Bordelaise, you got it.
Man, talk to me.
I'm a Bordelaise guy. And actually, the sauce we're doing on that short rib in Enzo is a Bordelaise type. It's really red wine and veal stock, or veal demi-glace, which is reduced veal stock. Those are the two main components. You reduce that down. You use different things in their salt. I mean, onions and garlic and stuff like that. But what really happens is red wine and veal stock, or demi-glace, reduced veals. That makes the sauce. So really, I do a lot with whole beef tenderloin, and just trim it, salt and pepper, or steak seasoning. I've got a really good steak seasoning recipe. It's on my website too. Just Google robertstjohn.com, go to the search bar and type, steak seasoning. Anytime you want any of these recipes, they're all there. I don't. There are no secrets around here. I figure if somebody wants to take time to make something, and I'm honored.
Absolutely.
But yeah, we'll take a whole beef tenderloin and sear it, finish it in the oven. I think it's probably, it's more low and slow, like 125 for 30, 40 minutes. You want to get to about 125 degrees to get it to medium rare. Cooking at 400 will be 30 minutes. 400 degrees will be about 30, 40 minutes. But from that point, you could also smoke it too. You could cold smoke it first, and sear it, cold smoke it, and then finish it in the oven at 400. But Yeah, the horseradish spike bordelaise is a little different than most bordelaise. Bordelaise is a French sauce, and you typically the pan that you're going to sear the tenderloin in, you go ahead and make the sauce in that because you got the fond in the bottom and the little bits and things. You deglaze it with wine. You put the veal stock in. This one actually has a little tomato paste, and what's different about it is there's some prepared horseradish in it, which adds. I mean, it works with the beef. And so that's a really good Christmas Eve thing too. And then if you've got some left over, then what you do is you just put that cold whole tenderloin in the fridge without the sauce, and then Christmas Day after everything's finished, you slice that thin and just make a sandwich on wheat bread with like mayonnaise, salt, pepper, pickles, and lettuce. It's killer.
Good grief.
Really good. So you got stuff for leftovers too.
Are you cooking one or both tomorrow night?
No. What I'm doing is short rib tomorrow night.
That's right.
Short
You
rib.
said that.
I'm doing an Enzo Christmas Eve. I'm really fired up at where we're headed with this thing. We're about to really ramp it up. The team is ready. The kitchen's ready. We've never taken over a restaurant with somebody else's employees. We've got 350 employees here in Hattiesburg, but everybody, the managers, everybody has kind of worked up through the system. Mm-hmm. And so it was a new thing for us to come, and take over a whole other culture. And the team has really worked hard, and we're proud of them. And I think we're at a point now, it's a little rocky just getting open like it always is, but we're through the honeymoon period, and we're about to expand the menu and be hitting on all cylinders right now.
I can tell you're excited. Robert St. John on the Out of Bounds show. What about, you just got back from New York City to see your son. What was your best meal in New York?
Oh, that's an easy one. Yeah, my son is at the Culinary Institute of America, which is up in Hyde Park, New York, across the river from West Point up the Hudson, which is about an hour and a half north of the city. And so he finished his last class Friday, and my wife Jill and my daughter and I flew up, and he took the train down. And so, he's been up there working hard at culinary school. He wants to go in the restaurant business. And so we spent 4 nights really just kind of eating around and took him to some shows. But, by far, it doesn't even come close. We ate one dinner at Per Se, which is there in the old Time Warner building on Columbus Circle. It's a Thomas Keller restaurant. I'm sure people know Thomas Keller. He's the man that has the French Laundry. And he's a friend of mine, lives out in Yountville, but Per Se was his second restaurant ever. And this was my second time there, but this time really was I kind of eat for a living. That's what I do. It's my second best meal ever. And I was so happy that my son was there to experience that. It was 18 courses.
Good grief.
It took 3.5 hours. And it was amazing. Per Se, yeah. It's a Thomas Keller restaurant. There's somewhere on my social media, I probably posted that menu, or I can repost it, but it was so unbelievably well done.
Yeah.
And then they came and gave him a tour of the kitchen.
How big is the restaurant, Robert?
I bet they don't seat more than in the main dining room. I bet they don't see more than 80 in the main dining room. They have a couple of private dining rooms, but the kitchen, if you go back on my Instagram feed, you can see a shot of the kitchen. Okay. And I'm going to tell you, I could have eaten off the floor of the kitchen and wouldn't have been any different than eating off the fine china that they brought out or whatever. It was pretty. It was one of those once in a lifetime experiences, especially to be with him, because this is what he's going into, and he was just in awe. He had never been there, and so that was. I do a top 10 list in my column every week, or at the end of the year every year, and do my top 10 meals of the year. And it won't even be close what number 1 is this year.
Per Se in New York.
Yeah.
Okay. Damn, that's impressive because you've been everywhere.
How
many weeks were you in Italy in the fall?
I spent about 3 months a year over there, and was over there almost 7 weeks this fall working, and I'll be over there maybe 8 weeks in the spring working. And yeah, I do. It's about 3 months a year. I host groups over there and kind of culinary, culture tours where I take people around to eat and drink and do all the. We do a lot of Italy. We've got a bunch of Italy ones coming up, but this year we're doing Spain again. We're going all over Spain. We're doing Holland, Belgium,
Damn.
in May, and then a lot of Tuscany.
Okay.
It's kind of my home base is Tuscany. I love it.
All right. Well, hey, man, congratulations on Enzo.
Yeah.
And thank you so much for stopping by and hanging out and sharing the pork tenderloin with muscadine glaze, a recipe, and the beef tenderloin with horseradish spiked Bordeaux sauce.
Bo, I got to tell you, I just want to real quick, and I know we're probably up against time, but I just want to say thank you to you and Blake for what you guys do. As you know, I'm a fan, and I listen every morning. I listen on my phone. If I'm in Italy, I listen to the show on the podcast. I'm a sports fan, and you guys are always engaging, and you're always on top of stuff. Don't always agree with you, but I always listen to you. So you guys have a blessed Christmas, and Mississippi's a better place because of the two of you.
I appreciate it, my friend. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Robert St. John on the Out of Bounds Show, 105.9 The Zone, ESPN. That short rib is happening in my and Blake's near future at Enzo. I'm looking forward to that. And, yeah, thanks to RSJ for you can go to robertstjohn.com for the recipes, as he was telling us, and we're going to post them a little bit later. All right, so we're going to get out of here for a couple of days, Blake, and we will be back on Wednesday.
It's game day.
Game day for the Ole Miss Rebels.
Yeah.
Against the Texas Tech Red Raiders.
Bang, bang.
And we have 11 NFL games tomorrow.
That's right.
You have Ole Miss playing next Wednesday, Mississippi State playing on January 2nd, and it's going to be a lot of fun. This is a Christmas falls on Sunday, so just a huge football weekend that we're all excited about. And Dak Prescott and Gardner Minshew going head-to-head tomorrow night in Dallas.
That's right.
That could be wild. And Texas Tech Ole Miss is at 8 o'clock on next Wednesday in Houston, Texas.
There you go.
At it is the TaxAct Texas Bowl. There you
Yeehaw,
go.
baby.
I'm glad I know y'all wanted to know that. We wish you and your family a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. We're going to get out of here for a couple of days. We'll be back on Wednesday for Ole Miss's game day. If you missed anything, any part of the show, we had a really good show today, fun. You can go to Apple Podcasts, search the Out of Bounds Show with Bo Bounds. Appreciate that. I really appreciate those kind words from Robert St. John, listening down in Hattiesburg or wherever he's traveling to the show live or on the podcast. And this hour was brought to you by the super premium tequila, Patron Tequila. And check out the Añejo and Extra Añejo Patron Tequila at Briarwood Wine and Spirits or wherever you shop. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. For Blake Scott, I'm your host, Bo Bounds. See you next Wednesday.